first of all, how are you doing, Armand?
Well, it's a pretty intense news cycle that we're dealing with right now. So I'm trying to absorb as much as I can and keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself briefly so everyone knows your background?
Sure. I live here in New York. I was a music teacher for a long time, and then I decided to go back to school a couple of years ago to get my MBA because I didn't want to teach anymore. And one of my professors was the president of Now This. And after Bernie Sanders decided to run for president, I started volunteering for him on a local level in New York. And I emailed my professor to let him know that the videos that Now This did with Bernie Sanders were helping me to register people to vote because they were such great videos. And then I ended up just coming in for an interview at the company a few weeks later, and they gave me a job there. And over time, I produced a lot of content related to the Sanders campaign. And then eventually I interviewed the senator in October, about a month before the election. So that was kind of like a peak moment for me. And now I'm just trying to get ready to produce content dealing with the Trump opposition.
Absolutely. Well, you'll be staying busy, and that's a good thing as far as, considering the situation. We can't ask for more than just people being on board, right? So what does independent media mean to you being in that, role?
Well, I don't necessarily think that I work for independent media. I mean, it's somewhere in between, maybe. I'm not sure how to really define it. It's definitely a newer progressive outlet. So you wouldn't necessarily think of it as like an establishment media in the way you think of CNN as establishment media.
Sure.
So, there are younger, newer companies that, I guess it just depends on your definition of indie media. But I think media in general is at a turning point right now where the trust in media is at such an all-time low that someone like Donald Trump can use that against his opposition. So what I've just been thinking about the past couple months is how do you restore trust in the media? And independent journalists have an opportunity to do that because so many people are turned off by establishment or so-called mainstream media that they really are looking for alternatives that are either local or that they feel that they can trust because it's just from ordinary people that don't have another agenda.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. So, that's kind of going to the next question, which is, while combating the fight against the free press, is there anything indie media or anyone that's operating in that gray area can do to increase influence, on maybe especially those that are paying more attention to, just cable or just one niche place that's not giving them the full news coverage, I guess.
You're saying what are the advantages of that?
Or is there anything particular that Now This is doing or that can be done to combat that?
Now This and other outlets have a certain formula as far as, making things digestible and shareable online. So over time you kind of learn, what should you put at the beginning of a video to grab the attention of the viewer? There's a real science to it, which is why certain outlets have been able to be successful.
Sure.
I think it's just, people are really into authenticity right now. So if you have an authentic voice, it doesn't really matter how big you are as an outlet. You'll see someone like Tim Black, for example, that I found out about during the election, or other, just independent journalists that really have a strong voice. So people start to follow them. They follow you on Twitter, they follow you on Facebook, and you build your following. It's like becoming like a songwriter or an artist. You just have to build a fan base. And I think people are responding nowadays to very honest, authentic content that has a real strong voice.
Well, I suppose that kind of answers the next question, which is, how do you combat fake news? And is it worth combating? You're hearing some reports that maybe it's not as influential as everyone worries it is, but what do you say to that?
I don't know. I think it's pretty scary. And, no matter how much fake news there actually is, the fact that Trump will use it as a weapon makes it scarier, because then it makes people afraid to find the truth. and then it just really destroys these institutions that need to be there to check on the government. So if you have no watchdog and no one is telling the American people what the government is doing, I mean, then we're really getting into, a real fascist kind of North Korea-like dictatorship where, hopefully it won't get that extreme, but at this point, I don't know, who the fuck knows?
It's never been more possible, or it seemed more possible than it does now. It's certainly true. There's almost the idea that, of course, it's going to the social media aspect that everyone's getting their stuff from Facebook and sort of that sort of thing. But now this is almost, it takes that and is running with it. Don't you think? Is that something that you guys have consciously done? That, I mean, obviously you're a digital media, and so you're aiming to produce stuff for Facebook. But have you, consciously gone after, that sort of medium, knowing that it's going to grow and grow and grow?
I mean, I'm not part of the strategy at the company.
Sure.
I just produce for a channel, but I can say that I think our politics page in particular really grew. I would give a lot of credit to this progressive movement that just started, that popped up out of nowhere. And I really saw it as an opportunity to really, years from now, we'll have these videos to go back to really make a record of this unbelievable movement that was happening. So every day that I would come to work, especially during the Sanders campaign, and even now, but during his campaign, it was so, to me, it was like, can you believe what's happening? Like, this Democratic Socialist is really close to getting the Democratic nomination. And then on the other side, you had Trump, so, at the same time, I'm trying to highlight the good that's happening right now. I'm also trying to remind people that this guy is a complete maniac. So right now, what I tell people is this is the same country that would have voted for Bernie had he been the nominee in the general election. So as dark as things seem right now, I just remind people that we could have gone a completely different way, and we're still that same country. So don't lose faith in just the people as a whole, because I think we all really are in this together. If we can just battle through for the next 4 years, I'm trying to stay optimistic, I guess.
No, that's a great outlook. Yeah. You've got everyone plays their role, but it's essential for us to stay optimistic. And that way we don't lead to, being jaded about the whole process and disengaging. Right.
Yeah.
Well, this leads to the final question, and this is about the free and open internet. So what is the state of corporate and mainstream media and its influence on independent voices on an open and free internet? And lately this has come back into the news, so it's timely.
Yeah, that's a great question. Corporate media obviously has a corporate agenda, so they're going to look for potential candidates maybe in the Democratic Party that they can work with, so this is really a question of how the Democratic Party either comes together or it splits up. But you're going to have independent media on the side of the progressive candidate or the independent candidate who's not on the side of corporate America. And then you're going to have the corporate media that will be on the side of maybe someone more like a Cory Booker or establishment type Democrat. So those are the opposing factions within the media. But I have hope because I think the young people of this country they don't know what CNN is. They don't give a shit about MSNBC and all that stuff. So they are looking for independent media, and it's become kind of like this cool and hip thing to get into, especially with these protests and the marches. If you get good footage of a march or a protest, you can get 1 million views just on your Facebook page or your YouTube page, so anyone can use that to, springboard into, independent journalists. And don't feel that you need to be huge independent journalists. It's more about just getting media out to the people at this point.
Yeah, it's almost, that's, I think, maybe also helps combat fake news, and the fact that if you get so much of a certain thing, you start being able to, at some point you can get drowned in it, but it also shows you like, oh, okay, there's more people doing this than ever. So some of them must be, it must actually be happening. They must be happening for the right reasons. I mean, you could see that with the Women's March. It's one thing to have them individualized, but the more we come together as a group, the more it actually helps us trust each other. You know, even if we're not actually in the same group, we're all progressive and we're in these different progressive groups that need to stick together. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Armand, thank you very much for coming and chatting with us. We'll, of course, be putting this out on the internet later, and, you know, your segment will be out there, and we'll share that with everyone. And again, thank you very much for being here. And
thanks, man.
Tell everyone, so what's the website? Is it nowthis.com, correct?
So we don't really use the website. It's facebook.com/nowthispolitics.
Okay.
And then on Twitter, it's Now This News. On Instagram, it's Now This News.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I know that you need to get off, and you're a busy man, and it's a busy time of year. So go on and keep doing your thing. And thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you very much. Yep. All right. Well, that was very great.